Hi, I'm attorney Vincent Davis, and I've been fighting CPS for over 35 years. Through my years of experience, I've gained invaluable insights that I'm ready to share with you. If you're a parent or a caregiver or a relative, we need to talk. I'm offering a new opportunity for you to speak with me on a one-on-one basis. Ask me any questions, and I'll provide you with the insight you need to take steps in your CPS case. Members get everything they need to gain confidence and the knowledge that they need to support necessary to truly fight back. And as a special thank you for attending, I have a special offer just for you. Don't miss out, join us, and let's take that next step together. I'll see you at the question and answer event.
Good morning and welcome to my podcast, Fight CPS with Bob Pace. You just heard from my attorney, Vincent Davis, with a very important message on next Saturday, a Zoom question answer with Mr. Davis. And please schedule that on your calendar for next Saturday at 10 o'clock. Now, you found my podcast. It is live. It's worldwide. And it was found on Facebook, Fight CPS with Bob Pace. Now, there are 8 rooms that join up with this room, or I should say 7 join up with the room I'm in. Anyway, there are different feed-outs from different areas, so no matter what you look for, Fight CPS with Bob Pace or, Fight CPS and Win, Relatives Fight CPS, etc., etc. It all channels into here, which is great. And I'm on 7 days a week, twice a day. That's 14 podcasts I do. And I've been doing this for over a year, and I have talked to over 600 some people. And I'm here to help you. Now, I come on at typically at 10 o'clock in the morning Pacific Standard Time for 1 hour, and then again at evening for 1 hour, 7 o'clock p.m. And I really encourage you all to ask me questions of what you may have with your CPS case. Now, there are exceptions. On Friday, which is Friday Night Lights in high school football, there's a final game. If they win this one, they go to the state. But this game, this next Friday, I'll be coming on either at 3 or 4 o'clock. But I'll let you know later in the week. That's so I can go to the game with my son. On Saturday, it fluctuates. Sometimes I'm on at 8 and sometimes I'm on at 10. I'll let you know in the week. And then furthermore, on Sunday, I'm on at 8 o'clock because of church. I come on at 8 o'clock and I go to church. So that is my schedule. And if you miss it in the morning or miss in the evening or whatever, they're recorded. So you can play back any of my videos for the past year on YouTube. Now, I broadcast on a StreamYard application and I broadcast on YouTube. And I want to help all of you. I'm a family man, not a lawyer, but I have 15 years of fighting CPS. 5 years was spent answering false allegations. And then on the 6th year, they ordered me to open my house, which I didn't know about. And they trafficked my children, took them without, there was no violence going on. They're in school. And then for the next 2 years, 3 years, I fought them. And I had to get an attorney, which was Mr. Davis. Sold my home, lost my home. You know, that's really sad when you have to sell your home. And furthermore, ruined my credit rating. So my credit score is not very good. Anyway, I'm so glad you found me. And We have, before I go much further, I've been using the term CPS. And a lot of you may know what it is, but some of you may be new. I didn't know what CPS when it first popped on me. But it's a government agency, a part of social services that's mandated by Congress to have social workers that will protect our children from neglect and abuse. Furthermore, these same social workers are supposed to offer you assistance in the area of food, clothing, shelter, transportation, education, medical, and of course, help you find a job. A lot of people don't realize that. You may come on hard times and you need that help. Furthermore, if they need to take your children because there's extreme danger going on around the kids, then they will take your children. And you will have to do things to get your children back and work with them on that. But they're supposed to do something called family reunification. Well, that's been really hurt by the 1997 law that's passed by Clinton, which is the incentive. Child Protection Agency is given money for putting children in foster care quicker than having them out for reunification. So the reunification has gone by the backside. CPS has found a way to make lots of money. It's $1 trillion business that CPS has embarked on. Not all the CPS are corrupt, but I've only talked to 3 of them that have been on my show. And the majority of the people that I called to had said horror stories where they were having a hard time in life with the loss of a job, or they're separating from their spouse, or there's domestic violence, or there's some type of hiccup or something there, or some were just struggling. And people were preying on them because they had no money or they didn't know what was going on. And it's a hard thing to get in there. But this agency I call the Child Protection System because every state, every county has a child protection system, but they're different names. Like the name Child Protection Services in California, in Orange County. Next door is LA County. They even have a different name in Mountain Counties, Department of Children and Family Services, DCFS. And then Arizona's Department of Children's Services, DCS. In Kentucky, it's the Cabinet. Every state seems to have a different acronym or whatever it may be. But it all boils down to every state has a child protection system. So I just call it CPS. And most people know what it is. Now, I also talk to people besides all 50 states, including Washington, D.C. I've talked to over 17 countries, from Bangladesh to India, to the Middle East, to Africa, to Europe, to North America, Central America, South America, across Pacific to New Zealand and Australia. So I've talked to lots of those people that have CPS issues. Some of them are heart-wrenching. So I've heard some horrible stories, and it's sad. It's sad because children are the most precious things. It's been proven that the biological parents are the best parents to raise children. So all attempts and all efforts should be made to reunify the family if they've broken apart. My family was broken apart through no fault of my own or my wife. And it started me when I turned age 60. I lost my job through no fault of my own. And at age 60, it was hard to find. I've been working for 45 years. And it's very difficult to find a career job at that age. And I know for the first 5 years during my time looking for work and so forth, I did not know that, but a layperson, which were my in-laws, my wife's mother, father, and her 3 sisters and brother were calling in, making false allegations every week for 5 years. And I meet with the social workers. I showed them my house. And everything's fine, but they kept harassing me and harassing me. And they knew that I was not working. Because like a fool, I told them that I was not working. I needed help. I needed food and help with those kinds of things. And so they take advantage of people that are in desperate need of help. And they're hoping that you'll take their court-appointed attorneys, which are nothing more than um, uh, beginning lawyers that are only trained in criminal. You see, you're in dependency law, family law, juvenile law. That's what you're in. And you're not in criminal law. And that's what these court-appointed attorneys were. And they're hoping you use them. They're hoping that your children will use them and so forth. Because they have a caseload of 30 more clients. They are not trained to fighting CPS. They don't know CPS. They're hired by CPS, they're paid by CPS, and they're controlled by CPS. So you don't want court-appointed attorneys if you want to get your kids back. You don't want them. And I know it may be a last resort because financing may be a problem. I had to sell my home, and that was really hard on me. But my case, started off where it's currently harassment about things were not true. And I was able to stay that off. And then one day they got a hold of the police, and the police had a detective find me and then follow me home, or actually follow me, picking up one of my children and pull me over and said, "You're going to go home and open your home up." Now, I've already opened my home up, so I don't know what they were looking for, but I didn't realize they were fishing. There was 5 firemen, 3 social workers, 2 code enforcement, 2 uniformed policemen, and a detective, all standing in front of my home. Very intimidating. And I did not know that they had to have a warrant to look in your home or even talk to you. You're not supposed to talk to social workers or the police. But it started off very tragedy. It was a very tragic event. But I first want to talk about how they interact with this podcast. And of course, people will be coming in, texting me messages, which I warmly welcome. Now, you're at the first of 4 things you can interact with the podcast. You're in my room, and there's emojis you can use, and you can send me stars. Please check to follow me. And then also, if you want to be notified, please check notification. And that's all you have to do. That's all you have to do. Now, a second way of interacting with this podcast is to text me a message. Now, the text me a message, all you'll have to do is ask a question or make a comment about your CPS case. Please list your first name and then the city or county you had your case in, and then the state. Now, if you're from another country, and I do welcome all the countries, please add your province and your country. And then also try to be complete with your CPS case. I know as much as it is about it. The third way is if you want to be a guest on my podcast. I can take up to 9 people, including me, be 10 people here. And you can be a guest and talk on the podcast like I am. All you have to do is contact my show producer. Her name is Grace, and she works very hard behind the scenes. I want to thank her. Now, you send an email to grace@vincentwdavis.com. That's grace@vincentwdavis.com. And she'll give you the link on StreamYard so that you can get on. And if you suddenly knocked off StreamYard, use the link again. It's good for the life of the show. And then you can be on the podcast. She'll also tell you what you can do and not do. Lastly, the fourth thing is you can call on my phone. My phone number is up. It's my office number, 626-698-0990. And You can call in during showtime hours. I won't answer the phone before showtime or after showtime hours. So those are the 4 ways you interact with this podcast. Now, 2 of the ways being on my podcast are calling in. If you speak and you do so, I'll ask you if you want to have a free 15-minute session with a private consultation with Mr. Davis. By you being as a guest or calling in and talking, will qualify you for a free 15-minute session with one of the top attorneys in the United States who fights CPS. As he says, he has over 35 years of experience. And not only he's a trial attorney, and not only that, once your case is over, he can do a civil lawsuit, and win you millions of dollars, because he's done so both in state and federal court. So he's the real deal. He is a pit bull of an attorney. Now, his office is in Arcadia, south of Los Angeles. He has cases in Orange County, LA County, Riverside County, San Bernardino County, and Northern California. He's also doing a case in Oklahoma. He does other states, so he's the real deal. So if you want an attorney right now, you want to retain him, he's at 888-888-6582. That's the law office of Mr. Davis. It's Vincent W. Davis and Associates is the name of the law firm. And if you don't need a dependency attorney or you don't have trouble with CPS, you can also call for help with immigration law, real estate law, workman's comp, criminal, divorce. He has all the attorneys that help you all your legal needs. So you just call 888-888-6582. Tell the office that Bob Pace sent you. And then you can retain Mr. Davis and one of the other attorneys. Now, if 15 minutes is enough time to talk to Mr. Davis, I've gotten a 30-minute session with him for $60. That's what's scrolling across the screen. For $60, you can have a private consultation with Mr. Davis for 30 minutes. All you have to do is go to that website and register with Mr. Davis for 30 minutes and pay the fee using your credit card. The website will broadcast through my whole show. It's at the bottom of the screen. And so there's another way. So there's the talk on the phone. There is being a guest on the podcast or calling into the number or having a 30-minute session. So it's important you do these things because I've developed 5 laws that you should do with your CPS case. It varies from person to person. But the first one, of course, I've talked about an attorney. It's so important you have an attorney here because you're dealing with an agency that is like doing open heart surgery. They're so complex. They lie. They're not transparent. And they will get you. It's a bad thing these people are. It's $1 trillion business. I know this from firsthand experience from my case in Orange County. So with that being said, I want to really thank you for finding this room, and I want to help you because I know how hard it is to lose a child. As I'll tell you about my case, it got worse and worse as time went on, especially when they thought they could force their way into my life and talk to me like a fool. I did. So these rules, I'm telling you, getting an attorney because you're going to be fighting like open heart surgery. And so you need a professional. You're not fighting a plumber. You're not fighting a mechanic. You're fighting open heart surgery is what they are. So you need an attorney, an expert attorney. And I really want to emphasize how difficult this agency is and has become. They found out that money is the spice of life for incentives and bonuses the workers work for. It's $1 trillion business. And the longer they keep your children trafficked into foster care or alienate your children, the more money they're going to make. And all the money comes free flowing from the federal government to the state to the counties. There's no accountability of that money going or how it's being spent. They get away with it, which is really a shocker. It's really a shocker. And that's the bad element of CPS. I want you to know, we have someone in the room. Great. Paulette Hennessy, welcome. Paulette, glad to hear from you again. I forgot what city and state you're in. If you could tell me your city and state or your county and state or your country that you're from, Paulette. But a warm welcome on there. I've been talking about my rules, and I've already pretty much talked about getting an attorney because you're like Alice in Wonderland. You've fallen in the rabbit hole in the garden and you met the Chester cat who directs you to room after room. Well, that's what CPS is like. It's crazy land. They're very corrupt and they're not supportive. You bounce around like a ping pong ball. And it's sad because they take advantage of you. And I didn't know. And I'm pretty intelligent, pretty well experienced, but I was fooled by CPS. Because what fools me is I thought you could trust the police. I thought you could trust the social worker. But I found that wasn't the case. Anderson, South Carolina. All right, from across the country. Well, I hope you're having some good weather. I know you had a hurricane that blew through there that gave you a lot of trouble, a lot of rain. So my heart goes out to all you people out there that are still fighting for a home and still trying to get aid with your disaster. And Paulette, if you want to ask me a question or make a comment about your CPS, please do so. Or if you want to call in at 626-698-0990 and talk on the podcast, that's great. I'd love to hear from you. Now, rule number 2 is organize a notebook, 3-ring notebook. In there, you want to stuff it full of notebook paper and all your court papers. You want to get subject tabs and organize it. Furthermore, you want to create a time log incident form. All you need to do is track all your incidents, whether from the police, the social workers, the school, family, or friends, or even the children. So what you do is you document everything about your case. So when an incident happens, you put the date, the time, the location, the people involved. Then with the next line, in one sentence, you summarize what the incident's about. And then the third line, you summarize the outcome of the incident. If you don't know it, you can come back later, leave some room for it. But that's pretty much how it works. It's really sad because most of the time, and the people I talk to say they make false allegations. The problem with false allegations, you're guilty till you're proven innocent. It's the only court of law where it works a different way. Also, they do not have a jury trial, and I think they should. I think you should be judged by your peers, not by one entity who is only interested in the money part of things. Paulette further says, let me put it on here so I can read it on the screen here. Okay, Paulette says, as I've been put through the hell of CPS, Department of Social Services, and that's what it's called in South Carolina, I see so many people going through the same thing. How can we change the corruption and abolish the courts? Well, we don't need to abolish CPS. There was a woman named Nancy Schaefer who wanted to abolish CPS and start over again because it's so corrupt. She's a lady my age, but she was murdered. And she was a senator in Georgia. And I don't think we need to abolish it. I think we need to do is make some intelligent changes. We need to have all the allegations, whether they come from laymen or professional people, be fully in writing and signed by them. Because I think there's more validity to the allegations when they're signed, the person's name is there. Now, we don't have to give out their name for confidentially. But if they turn out to be false, they should be prosecuted. They should be prosecuted. I think if people knew they had to put it in writing and sign a name to it, would be a little bit more careful about what they say. That's one thing in change. Also, I don't think you should be guilty until you're proven innocent. I think you should be innocent until you're proven guilty. They need to change that. CPS is the only court that does that. The third thing is that I would do is not be so much interested in money, which I know that is the guiding thing for most of the social workers, but do their job, to investigate, to be fairly, to not take children if they're not in domestic violence situations, and to put the children with family friends or family members. That's what they need to do. Okay. Also, I think it should be a jury trial, judged by your peers whether you're guilty or not guilty. Now, Paulette says, I've been studying on the court systems and the legality of it, and it seems they did not abolish the courts in a while back. No. Oh, that they did abolish the courts a while back. I guess that maybe in South Carolina. I did not know that. I just know this has been going on. They say CPS has been going on for 3 generations, meaning it started in the 1600s, and the first part went to 1875, and then from 1875 it goes to 1962, and then from 1962 to the present. That's how long that child protection for neglect and abuse have been around. Now, Paulette says, oh, wow. Okay. I like that. See what else Paulette says. I'm trying to share it so everybody can see it. How do we get the changes enacted? The entire system is corrupt. Well, you have to talk to your Congress people, your senators and your representatives in the state. Now, there's 2 senators for every state, and there's numerous representatives based on the population. So California will have the most representatives. So it's all based on population. So they feel that if a state has a strong population, they should have more voice. the 2 senators per state was something to make a balance of power there. But we need to lobby them and ask them to make the changes. You need to talk to your governor. You also need to talk to news media and other advocate groups to get the word out that changes need to be made. And that may help the situation. Now, Paulette further says from South Carolina, they should be held accountable. I agree with you. They're not right now. They need to create a board of directors and supervisors at the state level that monitors the counties. And then on top of that, the federal government's got to monitor how the money is being spent and how cases are being held. Those are things there. So we need to get those. I know in California 2 years ago, they had a rally at Sacramento. How you do is you create a group, an advocate group, and you meet, whether you're on Zoom or whatever. And, I realized it years ago. But let me see what else she was saying here. Okay, Title 4D and 4E, and I guess that's in South Carolina. So I'll look that up, Title 4D and 4E. Okay, 4E. Title 4D was child support and establishment of paternity. I don't know if you meant for South Carolina, but it's a federal state matching grant, which states must be spent money in order to receive federal money. So the federal reimbursement is an open-ended thing. So once they spend the money, they get more money. And the incentive is based on limited reunification and more of adoption, because they get money if people get adopted. Now, Title 4E is the Social Security Act states territories and tribes are entitled to claim partial federal reimbursement for the cost of providing foster care, adopted assistance, and kinship guardianship assistance to children who meet federal eligibility criteria. So I assume that's what you're talking about. Paulette. And I looked it up, based not on South Carolina, based on the whole country. So that's what pops up. Yeah, I know it's all about money. And Clinton passed that law in 1979 that really hurt us, because it makes it counties or CPS things that they want to put the children in foster care. They want to put the kids in foster care. And that's wrong. Because it should be family reunification first, and all efforts should be there. But the problem being with family reunification, the CPS workers take too long. They drag it out. So then they pass that law now that they get money for everybody that they get into foster care. They don't seem to get money for all their unifications, which is weird because I think you really do need um, you really do need that uh, reunification because that's the best way. Biological parents are the best parents. You know, you have to have rallies, you have to get news media to support you, you have to get your representatives, your senators, your governors, even get the president or the vice president to help. You're going to have to get lots of people involved in groups. And it takes money and time, but it can change. It can change. People have made changes. All right. We have right now, we have about 15 minutes left before 9 o'clock when my podcast will end. So I encourage you all to call in at 626-698-0990 or to be a guest on my podcast in the future. And it's all about money. Paulette, hit the nail. It's $1 trillion business that CPS has learned to make. And they've now taken the money, incentives to give their workers. Now, rule number 3 that I have is you do not talk to social workers or police. You don't let them in your home. They have to have permission to get in your home or to take your children. Now, if there's extreme domestic violence going on, the police or social workers will enter the home. If you guys are arguing with your children presently and the child's in danger of being hit or whatever, they're going to intervene. The third way is that they can get a court order, a warrant to remove your children or even talk to you. You don't want to talk to them because what you say will be used against you. Best thing to do is don't answer the door. And if they leave a card or note, then you can call them up and tell them that you'll have your meeting at Starbucks or McDonald's. You don't want to meet at their office. You don't want to meet at your home because they're fishing. Also, you say you have your attorney present. That's a real intimidation factor. They don't like that. They're hoping that you will take the court-appointed attorney. Now, Paulette has further said, it seems like they give custody to the dad because they're usually the ones working while we raise the kids because they have more money. Well, I don't think that's a 50-50 case. It goes to dad. If the dad is abusive or if the dad is an alcoholic or does drug use, I hear a lot differently. The mothers are the ones, not only do they take care of the children and help them with education and so forth, they also may have another job because I hate to say it takes 2 working incomes to to maintain a living. In the United States, it's really expensive. Gas is over $4 a gallon. Milk has gone up 50 cents. It's now at what is milk now? $4.50, $4.49. And this is my local. Of course, this is California, and I live in a surf city 3 blocks from the beach, so it's very expensive in Orange County. But it takes 2 people working. Also, if you're both working, then there is the child care needs while they're in school or after school, and who's going to watch and supervise. So it's not an easy thing. But I wouldn't label the dad or the mom either who's at fault or who is not at fault. It varies from case to case. It varies from case to case. And Paulette further says, Trump will help. I know Trump will help. I think Trump is a businessman and all his appointments are going that way. He's got to create a department. It's not actually a department, but it's a government waste of excess of government. So it will. I know, fingers are crossed. It's very interesting because he seems to want to really benefit the country as a whole. His emphasis, of course, is economics. We need to get our prices down on food. There's no reason why they need to raise food up. It's just lately they're trying to raise it because they know that Trump's going to change it and the CEOs want to fatten their coffers. I mean, it's one thing to, have a price and be greedy. That's wrong. That's wrong. Trump also wants to close off our borders and have an organized way of become, uh, you know, into the United States. We're all immigrants. Even the American Indians were the first immigrants that came over from Asia to Alaska and settled in the Canada and the United States and down in Mexico and Central America. Met the Spanish. We have the Incas, the Mayans, and the Toltecs and those cultures. They further migrated down to South America and then migrated out in the Pacific as the Kon-Tiki expedition showed that they could make rafts and go to islands in the Pacific. Even they made reed boats from Africa that could go to South America. So we're all a land of immigrants. But in the United States, it used to be organized. You used to come into New York through Ellis Island, and you had to learn English as the common language. You had to take a class in history, a class in government, to know the branches of government and what they do, and how Congress works, and those kinds of things, and the history of how our country was formed, and everything. It's a hard thing. You're not going to be able to change overnight, but people are trying. And I hope with my podcast, I help too. I help too. I hope I help too. So Paulette, we need to have a lot of people join in and do that because you look during the 60s, there was always the movement, especially against the war. People got together, they did marches. That's what we need to do. We need to do marches. Same thing with abortion. They've had rallies and marches with abortion. And so we need to do the same thing here with CPS. We need to have marches. And we need to do it. Now, they did Black Lives Matter where every city had groups and put together. Same thing with CPS. We have to have a mass CPS rise against them, make them accountability, make them, not waste the money or not doing money for their own coffer, or their own incentives, their own bonuses. Now, we also have to change the attitude of social workers. My social worker retaliated against our family. They took 3 of my children that weren't in domestic danger. They weren't. They were in school. In school, you're not in domestic danger. But I had to fight. I hired Mr. Davis, and for a couple of years, he got me my 2 boys back. But I lost my daughter. And the reason I lost my daughter is I did not know the law in the state of California that says you can emancipate from your parents at age 12. Well, the social worker who didn't have a college degree or a high school degree, was very young, not married, no mentoring, no training, everything, was on the stands talking about the adoption of our daughter by my wife's sister and husband. We did not want that. So our attorney was questioned a social worker about what kind of parents these two would make. Had they had any domestic violence? And she said they'd be great parents. And no, they've not had any domestic violence. Well, she committed perjury because what Mr. Davis knew, and I guess he knew all along, he pulls open a folder, and in the folder is 30 reports. They're all domestic violence about my wife's sister and husband. And they're physical domestic violence, which is worse. And so when that bombshell hit and the social worker lied, she felt so embarrassed that she told us parents, "You're never going to her again." And she fixed it that way. What she did is that she had my daughter divorce us parents, her two brothers, her grandparents, both sets, and all the uncles and aunts and cousins. She was also ordered to change her name completely, and she did that. She was also ordered to get a birth certificate. Seal her birth certificate, the one that she was born with. And she got another birth certificate, and the foster parents were listed as the birth parents, which is wrong, which is totally wrong. And then she got adopted into foster care. So that pretty much nailed the coffin to us. And there's nothing we could do about that. We could fight her that committed perjury. It's a lawsuit that is that you can do the civil lawsuit. But our attorney, wanted a big retainer to fight the case. So anyway, that's the sad part. And I hate to close this podcast being so sad. But I really want you all to think about these social workers out there. They're very corrupt. They're not transparent. And in my case, my social worker did revenge. They hurt. They don't believe in unification. So I hope you guys are careful out there. You listen to my rules and not talking to them or let them take your children. Watch out medical trafficking. That's where you take your child to urgent care or the hospital emergency room, and there's a social worker that try to take your child. Don't let them have them. And then furthermore, if you're pregnant, don't let them take your child from you because they'll try that also. And then rule number 4 is to research the internet. Make sure you phrase your words right. You want to start off with a city and state. As a small city like Athens, Georgia. You may want to do Athens and Atlanta, Georgia. Then use the acronym CPS and ask a question. The Operation and Procedure Manual, a 388 motion, ICWA, the Indian Child Welfare Act of 1979. There's lots of things that you could ask and so forth. So I want you all to be careful out there. Keep fighting for your kids. Oh, rule number 5. Forgot that important rule. It's where you put all your documents, your driver's license, your marriage certificate, your children's birth certificates, the shot records of the children, any medical records of you or the children, your driver's license. I think I said that, marriage certificate, all the important documents. Put copies. You don't have to have the original in there. Put an envelope and seal it, and that's with you so you have it with your notebook. So that's my rule number 5. So those are the 4 rules. And I want to thank Paulette for taking the time from South Carolina to talk about CPS to help us make it better. and so forth. And I want to thank all the people that give me emojis and come into my room and listen, because it's a hard thing you're going through. So God bless you. There'll be a brief message from Mr. Davis about his upcoming podcast. So with that being said, I'll see you tonight at 7 o'clock Pacific time. That's 7 o'clock this evening Pacific time. And if all goes well, I'll be there at 7 o'clock. I have a commitment today on Sunday that is in LA, and so I should be back in time for the podcast. God bless you, and this is Bob Pace signing off.
Hi, I'm attorney Vincent Davis, and I've been fighting CPS for over 35 years. Through my years of experience, I've gained invaluable insights that I'm ready to share with you. If you're a parent or a caregiver or a relative, we need to talk. I'm offering a new opportunity for you to speak with me on a one-on-one basis. Ask me any questions, and I'll provide you with the insight you need to take steps in your CPS case. Members get everything they need to gain confidence and the knowledge that they need to support necessary to truly fight back. And as a special thank you for attending, I have a special offer just for you. Don't miss out. Join us, and let's take that next step together. I'll see you at the question and answer event.